Section 2.4b is about dividing rational numbers. The hard part in this section is probably not going to be the signs. If you divide two signs that are the same, you're going to get a positive solution, and if you divide two signs that are different, you'll get a negative solution. So those rules still apply. The hard part for this is going to be reviewing how to divide decimals. So we're going to use long division here. 14.2 is going to go into 245.66. Now if you go back to grade school days, you'll remember that this number in front cannot be a decimal. So you're going to have to adjust it by moving the decimal place one to the right, and then you also have to move this decimal place to the right. So now we have a new decimal place right there. That's important. You have to start that way because you can't divide by a decimal when you're using long division. So how many times does 142 go into 245? Well, it looks like once because 142 is about 280, so it's not going to go in twice. So 1 times 142, always subtract. 5 minus 2 is 3, 0, and a 1. Now we'll bring down the 6. Now we've got to figure out how many times 142 goes into 1036. Well, 142 is close to 150, so I figure about 7 150s will go in there. I don't know, maybe less, we'll see. 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 1 is 29. And then 7 times 1 is 7, plus 2 is 9, so 994. That looks about right. Subtract. 6 minus 4 is 2. Borrow from the 10 for a 9. That's going to be a 4. So 42. And then we'll bring down the 6 again. 142 goes into 426 3 times. Now, I didn't do a great job of lining these up. This should be the 1. This should be the 7. Now I'm going to put the 3 on this side of the decimal point, because remember you have to make the decimal points line up. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 4 is 12. Carry the 1, and then a 4. So you get a remainder of 0. So 17.3 is my number. Because there's one negative sign, that means my solution will be negative. I would suggest pausing the video on this one and trying the division by yourself and see what you get. Here we're going to adjust the decimal point. So 25.76, no negatives, so the answer is positive. Here we have to evaluate an expression with some variables, so we're going to plug in the numbers. I'm going to rewrite this 2 times a, which is 3, times b, which is negative 4.5, divided by negative a, which is 3, and c, which is 7.5. One thing we can do to simplify things is you notice a 3 is being multiplied and a 3 is being multiplied on the bottom. Those will cancel. Makes it a lot easier to multiply 2 times 4.5. So 9.0. Because there's a negative on the top, we're going to get a negative 9 on the top. And on the bottom, we have a negative 7.5. Now we're going to have to use long division to do 9 divided by 7.5. So we'll do that right here. Remember, you can't have a decimal out front, so we'll adjust this and make the new decimal point behind the 0 in here. 75 into 90 once. Subtract. You get a 15. We'll have to bring down a 0. 75 into 150 twice, and that's after the decimal point. So 150 with a remainder of 0. So the answer here is 1.2. Dividing two negatives means your answer will be positive. Here we're evaluating another problem. I'll plug in numbers for the letters. C is 7.5, B is negative 4.5, divided by 4 times A, which is 3. I'm going to do 7.5 times 4.5. 5 and 5 is 25. 7 times 5 is 35, plus 2 is 37. Don't forget when you're multiplying, you have to include a placeholder. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 28 plus 2 is 30. So 5, 7, 3, 3. 2 decimal places after the decimal means I'm going to put my decimal point there, 33.7. So this is really 33.75. 1 negative means that's going to be negative, and we'll divide by 12. So 12 goes into 33.75. 12 goes into 33 twice, 24. That's a 9. Bring down the 7. 12 goes into 97. we're going to guess about 8 times. 1696, ooh, yeah, just barely. Subtract again, you get a 1. Bring down the 5. 12 goes into 15 once. That's a 3. We're going to have to bring down another 0. 12 goes into there twice. I'll try one more. 6, bring down a 0. Okay, 12 goes into 65 times, and that's a 60. So answer here is 2.8125. Because there's one negative, your answer will be negative. Now one note here, if the directions tell you to round anywhere, like round to the nearest hundredth or tenth or thousandth or something like that, you can go ahead and round this number. You don't have to keep going. I just wanted to do that for practice. Here's one more evaluation problem. I'm going to plug values in a second, but first I want to point out this idea of dividing by a fraction. One thing that makes life easier is when we take a fraction, instead of dividing by a fraction, we can multiply by its reciprocal. So you take the second fraction and you flip it. You may have learned that in grade school, but it's a way of turning a division problem into a multiplication problem. One of the benefits for us here is it ends up putting the C on top and the A on bottom, and then allowing me to cancel off the A's. So really what this becomes is a negative C over a B problem, which is a lot easier. So I'm going to do that by multiplying by the reciprocal first. Now I'll plug the values in, and we'll get a negative 7.5, because that's what C is, over B, which is negative 4.5. So 7.5 divided by 4.5. You have to adjust the decimal point, so we get 45 goes into 75 one time with a remainder of 30. We'll have to bring down a 0 now. 45 goes into 300 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 and 4, 24 plus 3 is 27. Another remainder of a 30, so we're going to keep bringing a 0 down. So we're going to keep getting this repeating of a 6. So answer is 1.6 repeating, or if you round it, 1.67. Because there's two negatives in the division, my answer will be a positive.